Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. Today, junk clearing continues. If we go into the old barn here, well, first we have a pile of stuff. That's a project for another day, not today. But if we go into the back, we come into what used to be our brood pig barn with pens for the brood pigs. A few years ago, we converted this to our chick brooder house, and it's worked out really well. We have 2 boxes in here. Hello, little chicks. Bigger chicks in here, about ready to go out. Before we had that brooder, after we got rid of the pigs, we used this brooder for probably 10 years. It's really simple structure, cost effective, but it had a couple drawbacks. No drawback wasn't the lilac bush growing right here. That was kind of a bonus, but I thought that it would be good to have it as a kind of a hoop structure because of passive solar heating, right? Well, it would get too hot in here in the summer, and we always had to have a fan running. The other problem was rats. Where you have animals that eat feed, you wind up with rats because there's inevitably some feed waste. And so I put down hardware cloth to keep the rats out, stapled it to the sides here. I would have to renew this every couple years, another layer on top, because chicken manure is so caustic it would just rot through. It would have been nice to have concrete on the floors, and that's what we've got in the pig barn is concrete, and that works much better. So today we're going to tear this down. What do you think, Ezra? This is different. Cat Jungle Gym. I guess deconstructing something is a good way to show how it was constructed in the first place. This was really cheap to build. It's 4 livestock panels, 16 foot long they come in, and they were, I don't know, 22 bucks a piece back in the day. So what have I got there? 90 bucks worth of that. This is all 3/8 inch plywood, and I never did a thing to it. I never put treatment on it or anything. And I don't know how many sheets. There were probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 sheets, and then the brooders were made of old 3/4 inch plywood pieces that I had laying around. So in total, what's that? I don't know, $300-400 for a building that lasted me 10 years, and it's at the end of its life, but it served its purpose. At the end walls here, there is no support other than just I wired the plywood to the livestock panels to brace this wall here when the wind blew on it. That's all. Hook the 2 together. And then here on the edge, to keep the plastic from ripping where it goes around the corner, is just a piece of old garden hose with a slit cut in it, zip tied to the end of this. Battens on the end here to hold the plastic down, and then I screwed them in with screws so that if I ever had to replace the plastic, which I never did, I could take them right off and put them back on. Same deal down here. These took a lot of rain. Everything came off through them, but they held up. Ventilation openings, just hole with chicken wire over it, and this is a piece of aluminum drip edge that I put there. Not waterproof. It's got a shutter on the inside. I'll show you later. More chicken wire on the door. Well, I've learned not to use Phillips head screws since I built this. Yep, sometime in there. onward to the cattle panels. There's 4 of them side by side through here to make almost 16 feet, and they're wired together where they butt together. Cattle panels are so versatile. They're like 5-gallon buckets. You can use them for a lot of different things. One of the advantages to using these is you have a million hanging points here that we would hang the lamps from, and hooks to hold the doors open and all that. I didn't originally put this center column in. It did fine in the summertime, but in the winter it would hold some snow right on the top and sag. So it's just wired onto the cattle panel and screwed down there enough to hold it up. These cattle panels are fastened at the bottom with fencing staples. I think we got some roosters with the pullets that we grew out this year, and I can hear them. Yep. This is how we controlled ventilation. It's just a bolt that slides up and down in rabbited 2x3s, and then we had a bunch of holes here so we could control that. In reality, we left it open almost all the time because it's warm when we're brooding chicks. This structure that runs around the bottom is about 2 feet high, and it was to lift the cattle panels up so we could walk easily through here, so it was high enough. So it's 2x4s, 2x3 bracing at the corners. And then because the cattle panels thrust outward, I ran a 2x4 across the middle at the ground, and these braces here to keep the sides from bowing out. Hillary came out to see the exciting part.
It's the end of an era.
Yep. face. There we go. I picked this up a couple weeks ago because we got a lot of tree trimming to do. This is a steel HT105 pole saw. It's got a 12-inch bar here and it telescopes. It's one long saw when you have it telescoped out. It's a beast from what I could tell so far. Cuts great. Little firewood. It's been a long time coming. This place has been overgrown for a long time, and this old Brooder had to go. It'll look nice outside of our window, our dining room window.
Oh, it sure will.
Walnuts are what we have, black walnuts. These are all walnut over here, and this is our granddaddy walnut here. The spread on it must be, I'm a terrible judge of distance. It's at least 100 feet, maybe closer to 150. It's just a beautiful thing. They all need to be trimmed up though. You can see how low the branches are, especially as they get more loaded with walnuts this time of year. This is the base of that big walnut, the granddaddy walnut. And I used to sit under here when I was in high school, when I was a little kid. And it's just always been, I guess, a part of my life. I don't know. It dominates our yard and it's beautiful. About 25 years ago, it started to split because it's got a steep crotch here. So I put a turnbuckle up there and rods, threaded rods into each side, and it seems to have healed up. I'm glad I did that because I'm afraid I would have lost at least half the tree back then. Next job is to grade this off so it can be seeded. Not walnut. Something else. That should be way too much. Titus knows what time of year it is. It's almost breeding season. I guess we could have gotten out one of the waters, but this seems like too small an area to me.
Yeah, it does.
No. It's kind of relaxing to stand here and water it.
I think that grass will come up pretty quick. That soil is really rich.
It is rich.
Lots of chicken poo in there.
Aged chicken poo.
Aged chicken poo, yes.
It's time to start the fire. Well, it's kind of windy. I have a freezer find to cook for dinner. Something I didn't know I had in the freezer. A pleasant surprise. Alrighty, coals are ready. This is a pork butt. One of ours from the last batch we grew. I found it in the freezer with a couple pork chops, under a couple pork chops we have left. Put it so the fat cap is up. It's a skinny cut. Indirect heat, both baskets. And I leave it wide open. While that's cooking, there's one other thing I'd like to get done today. Howdy, gents. Eating your dinner? You don't want to ever hook these up by the what you call it, the lower key in here. We're going to hook it behind here so we're drawing from the two rails. What is it? Wild grapevine. Here's the wild grapes. How's the roast? Looks good. This is an extremely rare tractor. This is a 1941 Farmall H, and they only made 391,000 of them. Here's the easily readable serial number, 66853. That makes it a 1941. And it's a one of a kind because no other H has a rock like this on the deck, that I know of anyway. That goes with it. I bought this H at the Whitney Point auction that I've done videos of before, the spring auction. Sometime around 2005, I was restoring the other H that I had the sickle bar mower on, and I took the rear end apart and found that it had a cracked, in like 3 pieces, differential case or differential carrier. It's about that big, and somebody tried to JB weld it back together, and of course that didn't hold. So I needed a few other parts, so I said, well, I might as well just find a donor H. I can't remember what I paid. I think I paid like $700 for this, and it had a bad skip. When I got it home, I took the valve cover off and found that it had a push rod that was bent a little bit, and that was the source of the skip. I hammered the push rod straight, put it back in, and it ran fine. But I've salvaged some things off that. The rear end's missing that differential carrier. Magneto's gone, starter's gone. That's probably in my extra stock up in the garage. I probably got 15 or 20 of each of those up there. And I swapped out the PTO. This is the early style PTO with a smaller diameter PTO shaft. The tires are awesome. They've got decades of use left in them. And the rims do too. Yep. M&W throttle. That's got to be worth at least $1,000. Let's see if she'll turn. That'll be a miracle. Nope, not the easy way anyway. Casting code on the deck lid is 616K, which would be June 16th, 1941. Not too long before we entered World War II. It's just pretty cool to think about when these things were made and what was happening in the world. It really shows you how old they are. Other than that, there really is nothing special to it. It's got the old cutout regulator in it. Low, high charging rate, dim, bright for the lights. I don't remember if the generator's still on it or not. Yeah, it's fairly complete. It just has sat for 20 years. It being locked up, and who knows, you know, it's got a cap on the muffler, but hopefully no water got into the engine. It's just hard to tell. And these things are worth scrap price. But I don't want to take this to the scrap yard. I want to sell it to somebody who will find some use for it. Maybe just as a parts tractor. It's got lots of parts still left on it that are just fine. And so what I'm going to sell it for probably is scrap price. Scrap's going, this tractor weighs about 4,000 pounds, 2 tons. Scrap price for long steel is $130 a ton. So, you know, it's a $300 tractor, give or take. I want to move it down the road. So it's going on Craigslist and Facebook, and hopefully I can get it out of here. Where are we at here? I shoot for 145. A little under there, but she'll come up when she rests. This was in for about an hour and 20 minutes. I don't do pulled pork. I like to cook it more like a roast beef, I guess. This has McCormick Montreal steak seasoning on it. That's the spice I kind of use for most everything. I got to test it before I bring it in for my family and make sure, you know, it's not poisonous or anything like that. Usually I do these inside on an electric rotisserie, a Ronco rotisserie. And it gets them evenly kind of crispy on the outside, all the way around, the best part of it. But on the grill they get a little bit of a smoky flavor, and that's nice too. that was a long day's work. It's good to have a good meal to finish it off, as usual. We're in the midst of this giant cleanup, as I talked about in the last video, and there will be more of that to come probably in future videos. Still, wherever I walk, I see I got to get this done and that done and that done. And I also need to update y'all on the status of the 856 tractor restoration, the International truck, which I haven't been working on since late last year, and the construction of the new shop. I'll try to do that either in the next video or in a video coming up soon. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time.